Welcome back to the Dargslan Linux series. This is part 7, and today we're tackling something that genuinely changes the way you think about installing software. If you've spent years on Windows or Mac OS, you're used to hunting down installers, clicking through wizards, and hoping the download is legitimate. Linux throws all of that out. Instead, it gives you something closer to an app store, built right into the terminal. And by the end of this chapter, that one-line command on screen won't look intimidating. It'll feel like a superpower. Here's the path we'll walk together. We'll start with what a package actually is, just bundles of files with some metadata attached. Then talk about repositories and why trust and signing matter more than you'd think. From there, we get hands-on with apt for Debian and Ubuntu users, followed by a quick tour of DNF and pacman for the Fedora and Arch crowd. We'll wrap up with the newer cross-distro options, Snap, Flatpak, and AppImage, and finish on cleanup and troubleshooting, because eventually something will break, and you'll want to know how to read what apt is complaining about. So before we dive into commands, it's worth asking why Linux took this approach in the first place. Everything you install comes from a trusted, signed repository. No hunting random websites hoping the download isn't malware. One command updates your browser, your compilers, even the kernel all together. Dependencies get resolved automatically, so no DLL hell, and when you uninstall something, it actually leaves. App stores reinvented this in the 2010s. Linux has been quietly doing it for 30 years. So what actually is a package? At its core, it's just a compressed archive, something like nginx 1.24 to 2.deb, maybe a megabyte or two, containing the real files that get copied into places like USR bin and etc., plus some metadata describing what it is and who built it. Crucially, it also lists its dependencies, so the manager knows to pull in things like libcell automatically. There are tiny scripts that run before and after install to set things up, and a cryptographic signature that proves it came from where it claims to. But where do those packages actually live? On a repository, basically a big trusted server out on the internet like archive.ubuntu.com, hosting thousands of pre-built packages ready to download. Your system keeps a list of which repos it trusts in fetch-etra-apt-sources.list, and you can peek at it anytime with cat. You can also add third-party repositories called PPAs, but be careful. Anything from a repo can install files as root, so only add ones you genuinely trust. So with repositories sorted, let's talk to apt directly. There are really just 6 commands you'll lean on every day. Start with sudo apt update. That doesn't install a thing, it just asks the repos what's new. Then sudo apt upgrade actually pulls down the new versions. Install and remove do exactly what they say, with install also handling every dependency for you. Purge goes a step further than remove and wipes the config files too. And apt search lets you hunt for packages by name. No sudo needed since you're only reading. Now those first 2 trip people up constantly, so it's worth slowing down. Apt update doesn't update your software. It updates your shopping list. It just refreshes the catalog of what's available out there in the repositories. Apt upgrade is what actually installs the newer versions, using whatever that catalog last told it. So the rhythm is always the same. Refresh the list first, then install from it. So let's watch one of these installs in the wild. Here we're asking apt to install htop, a nicer process viewer. Notice apt reads the package lists, works out the dependencies, and then tells you it's actually pulling in 2 packages. Htop itself and a library called libincurses w6 that it needs to run. That's the moment to pay attention. Before you hit Y, glance at what's coming along for the ride, and especially at anything being removed. Then it downloads, sets things up, and you're done. Now, apt isn't the only game in town. If you hop over to Fedora, you'll be using DNF, and on Arch, it's pacman. But the mental model is identical. Refresh your repos, upgrade everything, install, remove, search. Same 5 moves, just spelled differently. So once you've internalized the pattern with one tool, picking up another distro is mostly a matter of learning the new vocabulary, not relearning the concept. There's also a newer wave of package formats trying to solve an old problem, getting one app to run cleanly on every distro. Snap, from Canonical, comes pre-installed on Ubuntu and updates itself in the background, though it's been known to feel sluggish on first launch. Flatpak takes a more community-driven approach with strong sandboxing and a huge catalog over at FlatHub, at the cost of bigger downloads and the occasional permission prompt. And AppImage skips installation entirely. It's just a single file you mark executable and run, which is wonderfully simple, but you're on your own for updates. So with all those options on the table, how do you actually choose? Start with your distro's package manager. apt, DNF, or pacman, every time. If what you need isn't there or the version is too old, reach for Flatpak, especially for desktop apps where FlatHub tends to be much fresher. If you just want to try a tool without committing, grab an AppImage, make it executable, and run it. And on Ubuntu, when something offers itself as a snap, just accept it. Fighting that battle costs more than it's worth. Now, sooner or later, apt will throw an error at you, so let's demystify the usual suspects. A lock file complaint just means another apt process is already running. Wait it out, or hunt it down with ps-oxe and grep. Unable to locate package almost always means you forgot to run sudo apt update, or you fat-fingered the name. Unmet dependencies? Try apt install with -ef to fix what's broken. And if a repo says it no longer has a release file, that's usually left over from a distro upgrade. Pop open sources.list and swap in the new codename. None of these are scary once you know what they're really telling you. A bit of housekeeping goes a long way because over months of installing and updating, your system quietly hoards megabytes, sometimes gigabytes, of stuff it no longer needs. Sudo apt autoremove clears out orphaned dependencies. Those libraries pulled in for a package you've since uninstalled. Sudo apt autoclean tidies the download cache by deleting .deb files that aren't even in any repo anymore. While sudo apt clean is the more aggressive cousin. It wipes the entire archive folder and usually frees the most space. And if you ever want to see what's actually on your machine, apt list installed gives you the full inventory. Pipe it through grep to search or wcl to get a count. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about 3 traps that bite almost everyone at some point. First, skipping apt update before installing. Your local package list could be days old, so you'll either grab a stale version or hit a confusing package not found. Just chain them together with double ampersands and make it muscle memory. Second, adding random PPAs you found in some forum post. Remember, those repositories install with full root privileges, so a shady one effectively owns your machine. And third, reaching for sudo with pip or npm. That's a fast way to clobber your system Python. Use a virtual environment or the user flag instead, and your future self will thank you. So let's pull the whole chapter together. A package is just a bundle. Files, dependencies, scripts, and a signature all in one trusted archive. Repositories are the trusted servers your system pulls from, so guard that list carefully. Remember that update refreshes the catalog while upgrade actually installs newer versions. They're not the same word. Whether you're on apt, DNF, or pacman, the 4 verbs are identical. Refresh, install, remove, search. And when in doubt, reach for your native package manager first, and only fall back to Flatpak or AppImage when it genuinely can't deliver. And that wraps up packages. Up next in Part 8, we'll get hands-on with editors and configuration. The survival skills you need in Nano. Just enough Vim to escape it gracefully, plus a tour of dot files and the handful of files under etc. that actually shape how your system behaves. 7 down, 17 to go. I'll see you in the next one.